Pain isn't just about one joint, one injury, or one bad day. It's your body asking for attention, and the right guidance can change everything. Welcome to the Optimal Health Guide podcast. I'm your host, Michael, and I'm here with the Optimal Health Guide, Josh Vance. Hey, Josh, good to have you on today's call.
Thanks. Nice to be here.
All right. Well, Josh, today, what I want to dig into are a few of the things that people listening in might be able to do before they ever show up to an appointment and talk about optimal health that way. I'd love to also have you speak to some of the other services that your physical therapy office provides besides just hands-on physical therapy, things like massage. And then I'd really love to have you just drop some wisdom for everybody on ways to be able to maximize our health, to live in that optimal health that you're longing for everybody to be able to live into. So let's dig in. How about this? How do simple things like stress and sleep and daily movement patterns actually influence pain and recovery?
Well, as we all know, stress is a normal part of life. And the stress can be positive. That's called eustress. But there's also distress. And negative stressors can add up and build up over time. And that then gradually has an increasing effect on a person. This could manifest itself in the sense of muscle tightness that gradually worsens and becomes painful over time. After a while, this then can become a chronic problem that then limits range of motion. It can cause painful movements, decreasing productivity due to that persistent pain that becomes a person's focus because it's constantly there and they can't get away from it. They just always feel that pain there. So stress can obviously also affect one's sleep. And sleep is super important because it's the time when the body's at work repairing and rejuvenating itself. So being deprived of sleep is going to have an impact on your ability to heal. Not getting that is going to slow down the recovery from injury and recovery from pain. Any hard work that a person does to improve a painful condition that they're dealing with isn't going to have the maximum effect that they're looking for. In a sense, they're going to be working against themselves unless they ensure that they're getting that adequate quality sleep that we all need. Daily movement patterns can also have an amazing impact on recovery and pain. On one hand, having bad movement patterns can cause chronic pain patterns. Now, for example, someone that sits at a desk all day working with a head forward posture and elevating their shoulders all the time, constantly reaching and in a bad position, they're reaching for the mouse. It's just they're going to end up with neck and shoulder pain. It's just set up to happen over time. But on the other hand, good movement patterns can also have a profound positive effect on pain. So another example that I like to use with patients often is that of the idea of their back being a bank account. And so what I'll tell them is currently, if they're in therapy, they're bankrupt or they're at least in the red and overdrawn. And then I tell them that every movement is either a deposit or a withdrawal from the bank of their back. Good movements, deposits, bad movements are withdrawals. And so we have to make lots of good movements. We have to make every movement a good movement. So we have lots of deposits to get out of that situation, to get out of that pain. And they really get it when I use that analogy.
Yeah, oh, that's so good. I love it. And again, there's a lot to chew on there, but let me just kind of walk back through what you're talking about. You've got positive and you've got negative stress, but the negative stress, the de-stress that you talked about really does have an impact upon us. The importance of sleep. And I mean, I know it conceptually too, but even as you were just stating it, that our body needs that time to heal and to recover. I think that was really, really important. And then I love that analogy about the back bank that you're talking about and everything that's there. When you were describing those movements of being on a computer all day long, I was checking my posture too, because I've been on many calls all day long on the computer and I was trying to readjust there as well. So I can see how all of those things factor in. Are there any one of those that maybe play out more than others with the clients that you sit down with?
I think probably movement patterns is one of the more common things, and posture. Those two things. Stress in general, people frequently get those tight little knots and stuff up in their shoulders. And sometimes that comes and goes a little bit. But I think the power of those bad movements over time that just kind of gradually add up, and it may be years before they even feel that pain, but it's just been stacking up over a long period of time. I think those are probably some of the more common.
Well, what about, so you could provide the best top tier in clinic treatment to people, but how could that fall short if, like, all these lifestyle factors, sleep and stress and body movements aren't properly addressed?
Great treatment that happens in the clinic is limited to about an hour or so, 45 minutes, an hour, maybe an hour and 15 minutes, a couple of times a week. If you break that down, that's only about 120 minutes out of over 10,000 minutes in a week. Now, what goes on in the remaining 10,000 plus minutes in a week is going to directly impact the work that was accomplished during that 120 hours of time in the clinic. So, if during the rest of the week, those factors like movement patterns, posture, activity level, exercise, sleep, stress, stretching, nutrition, or other lifestyle factors aren't being discussed and addressed, treatment's going to suffer to some degree at least. The more those factors are addressed and handled, the better the outcome is going to be. But the less those factors are addressed, the longer treatment's going to take, and ultimately treatment may fall short of complete recovery. We've got this thing pulling us back and holding us, so it just can fall short of getting full, complete recovery, unfortunately.
Yeah. 120 minutes versus 10,000 minutes. That just helps so much to be able to hear that. The best that you could bring to the table can make a difference, but it can only make so much difference unless there are changes outside of that. That's really, really helpful. Are there any overlooked habits that you see most often that quietly slow people's healing?
I think one habit I see that slows people down from healing is the idea that an exercise that I give them is only for the purpose of exercise and that's it. So let me explain that. Let me explain what I mean. Think about a person with back pain and they hurt when they stand up from sitting from the couch or a chair. I noticed that they have a bad movement pattern and they aren't controlling their spine, keeping it in the right position, and they're kind of bending it forwards when they stand up. So I show them how to do an exercise that might be, say, like a partial squat or something. And perhaps we work on controlling the spine throughout the movement. And after a little bit, they get it and they're doing well with it. And then I ask them to do maybe 3 sets of 10 or 15 of them every day. I then explained to them that that movement they just did, this exercise, if you will, is the same thing that they should be doing when they stand up, when they sit down, when they're picking things up, when they're bending over. It's that same movement. And they need to think of that exercise every time they perform those functional movements throughout the day. And so when the exercise or movement pattern becomes the functional movement that they use on a regular basis, that healing is going to speed up significant progress in overcoming that habit that previously may have been slowing them down.
Wow. Yeah, yeah, you're really helping me to think this through all the more. I can totally see how I would segment off and say, okay, I'm doing these exercises now, and then check, done. And then if I don't translate those same movements that you're trying to help me in this functional movement that you're talking about, I can see how I would undermine the process. So am I hearing that correctly there?
Yeah, that is exactly right. It's not just the purpose of an exercise, but it's the application of that
Yeah.
the rest of the 10,000 hour minutes during the day. You got to be applying the movements.
That's great. Now, again, at your office, you don't just provide, hands-on physical therapy. You also have another suite of services like medical massage. And so, how does therapeutic or medical massage complement physical therapy in the healing process?
When treating a patient in PT or physical therapy, I find that most patients need some amount of hands-on manual therapy treatment that often includes some soft tissue work. You might call it massage, you might call it soft tissue mobilization, but it's that similar idea. While this is an instrumental part of the treatment to recover, there are many other things during the course of the physical therapy treatment that need to happen. Things like education, joint mobilization, instruction in new exercises, perhaps balance training, gait training, other exercises. There's lots of other things. So there are times when a patient could benefit from more soft tissue work than we have time to do in an hour. Okay. Just because of the severity of the condition or how chronic the condition may be, because of the number of muscles that may be involved or the number of regions that may be involved, they just may benefit from more. So in such cases, which can be helpful with the long-term goal of resolving the patient's condition by having a little bit more help in caring for the soft tissue the soft tissue dysfunction. And this is going to help increase circulation. It's going to help facilitate relaxation, help decrease the toxins. It's going to help to restore that normal muscle mobility to the tissue and obviously decrease pain too. So, particularly with some of my chronic cases, it can be a very nice adjunct to what we're trying to achieve in physical therapy.
Yeah, that's great. And then can you clarify this too? So it's therapeutic medical massage versus just massage you're going to a spa. What kind of key differences are there between the two of them?
Well, I think there's a lot of overlap. A massage therapist is going to be very skilled at Swedish, at deep tissue, at shiatsu, at many different kinds of disciplines. The environment is probably going to be the most different, being a spa type of environment versus a more clinical. Now, we do have our massage room specially created, if you will, to provide a relaxing atmosphere, but it is a physical therapy clinic and there's a lot of other things going on. It is a quiet environment, but it is a little bit of a different environment.
Good. When do you see that hands-on support outside of exercise makes the biggest difference for patients?
One group of people that could really benefit from those are people with a lot of stress and they may need some time to decompress. They just have a lot of things going on. They have high stress. They need some time to relax. They need some soft tissue work to just get the muscles to let go. And they just need a little bit of a mental release too. Others that can really benefit from people would be people with like chronic conditions, those that may have had chronic neck or back pain, chronic shoulder pain. Usually the neck and shoulder kind of go together, but also frequently patients that have completed physical therapy after having, say, like spine surgery, either surgery on their neck or low back, they frequently continue to have a lot of chronic muscle tightness, and they could benefit from periodic massages to help alleviate that tension and tightness as well. And I would suggest, though, it's also if a person has had surgery, that the massage therapist is very knowledgeable and understanding about what kind of a surgery that it was performed so that they are able to know what would be appropriate with the massage and what's not appropriate based on a specific kind of procedure. Because there's a lot of different surgical procedures. Just because a person's had, neck surgery or low back surgery, person A versus person B, it can be completely different. And what they're doing can be completely inappropriate potentially based on what they had to do surgically. So it is so important for a person to understand what is and is not okay. And so I'll always talk to our massage therapists in that kind of a situation so that they understand what's going to be right for our client, just so they
I can
understand it.
see the benefit there of your professional physical therapy perspective in collaboration with this, massage therapy and the difference that it makes to be able to have the guided massage in the midst of it. It really is that support team for recovery that we talk about. So how does working as that team change someone's experience of recovery?
For us, and in my mind, recovery begins when someone walks through the front door and they're greeted by the front desk. Positive interactions with staff that are interested in you as a person is part of that recovery experience. We've all
Hmm.
had good interactions. We've all had some bad interactions at the
Yeah.
front desk, or maybe just an okay experience. They were kind of ho hum and you didn't get a lot of interaction with them. Even those ho hum and negative interactions can leave a person feeling neglected, upset, or frankly, uncared about.
Yeah.
On the other hand, we know that positive interactions might include asking a patient how their weekend was, or asking about what they did over the holidays, and genuinely being interested in them as a person. And that shows that they're actually cared for and valued. This contributes to positive feelings, which helps set the tone for positive treatment. So our support team isn't just the clinical staff, it's the person that helps create the schedule that works
Yeah.
with your busy life and all your appointments, the person that's going to help explain the complicated insurance jargon and what the
Yeah.
patient responsibilities are.
Bless them.
That can be quite confusing for people.
Yeah.
If something isn't going well as we would like, we even have a member of our team called the patient angel. Okay. And part of the responsibility is help smoothing out the wrinkles that might occur. So
Yeah.
from the clinical side, our team works together to communicate amongst each other any changes that may need to be in any changes that need to be made in the plan of care. Other services a patient may need such as a special test or a referral to the massage therapist or a referral outside somewhere else. And that positive experience working with the whole team hopefully is seamless from beginning to end and and that provides for a quicker, more complete recovery for the patient to get back to the life that they're really wanting to enjoy.
I love the way that you started with recovery begins as you consider coming, scheduling the appointment. So wonderful arc of showing how you've developed a team that is delivering the services and helping somebody move toward recovery, but also even like potentially planning for if some things don't go along well. What kind of angel was it that you described it?
We call it the patient angel.
That's so good. I love that because you're already preparing for seeing somebody all the way through the journey, even if hurdles show up along the way that you couldn't have planned for. So brilliant. I really see the loving care that people find themselves in as they come under your service. So, hey, shifting gears to just, little things that make a big difference. Why is it that small, consistent changes can tend to work better than dramatic all or nothing efforts?
Okay. I think there's several reasons. First, small changes, they're easier to implement. When a person has to deal with too many changes, it can become absolutely overwhelming. Secondly, small changes over time begin to provide progress or improvement. This then, in turn, is powerfully encouraging or a good catalyst to produce more change and positive results. So those small changes are easier to turn into the habits. A new positive habit with success continues to help drive that little change, and so that more changes, more positive small changes develop into more good habits, and then that cycle can just continue to provide forward momentum and forward more positive gains into the future as they continue along that pathway, making small little changes.
Yeah, so helpful and so encouraging because, yeah, a lot of times daunting big tasks we might avoid because, oh, that's just too hard. I don't have the time and the energy right now. But I love your encouragement to just start small. Those make a big difference over the long haul. So, how how would you say that you help people make those changes that they can actually sustain over time?
Okay, first of all, I think it's important that to keep things simple. An example, I could be teaching a person 2 or 3 new stretches that can be done at home simply without a lot of equipment. Second, it has to be gradual and slow so they can understand it and not get overwhelmed. So I understand how easy it is to shut down when you're overwhelmed. So to me, it's super important to prevent that.
Yeah.
But that might be a decrease in pain or being able to walk just a little bit further, waking up without pain as frequently. But recognizing success for a patient is really important for them to be able to continue with their program. So my point is we want to build on previous successes
Yeah.
that they've had and achieved. That then helps keep pushing them along so that they can see those little gains that they're making over time.
That's great. Yeah. So in so many ways, you're there alongside them, but you're also coaching them. And it's as if you understand, tendencies that we have as humans. And so you're coaching little along the way. That's a brilliant position and posture to be able to place yourself in. What kind of changes or, what kind of progress surprises patients the most when they start making these small adjustments?
I think one of the things that I hear probably most often is that the pain is better. That's an interesting statement to me, but so after evaluating a patient before they leave, one thing I want them to do or to have is a couple of those simple and easy things that they simply do at home, like a stretch or simple strengthening exercises, something that they can do. It might be just understanding of how to utilize some ice or some heat on the involved part. It usually doesn't take a lot of effort, but
Hmm.
frequently when they come back in the next visit or two, they'll tell me with a bit of surprise in their voice or even an expression of surprise that they feel better already. And sometimes I get a comment like, I didn't think it was going to help. And it's not infrequent that that happens, but it's just that little bit of thing, but yet they're quite surprised at how much it's helped so soon.
Yeah. Well, this is great. Thanks, Josh, for giving us a perspective on how you're here coaching in the corner, even trying to help people prevent the need of coming in for in-clinic care, but how you're building a team of people to be able to meet the need that people have all along the way, coaching them and showing them how to be able to take the next step so that they can experience that optimal life that they long for. So thanks so much, Josh. Thanks everybody else for listening in.